Yeah, and Metapods, as our draft is getting kicked underway here, we will have CBR back over onto the blue side and No Fear Wolves on the red side. And with Ash Ezreal once again being banned by No Fear Wolves, and they're looking to go for that Kha'Zix ban third, we do see the Ziggs, as you mentioned, banned by CBR. So that's 580 carry bans in the first round of bans in what isn't considered to be an 80 carry oriented meta. This is absolutely wild and speaks to the caliber of Debay and Epic Fail Guy and how consistent they are at carrying their teams when they're given resources and given gold, despite the star players that they have in their solo lanes with Ruddle Edge, Frosty 5, Cornstar, and Cute Raichu, who our casters cannot seem to stop mentioning.
But I am really surprised, like you're saying, all this 80 carry targeting. And they still don't seem to want to try to pick the Ezreal themselves.
And Metapod's first pick Caitlyn. B1 Caitlyn.
It worked.
Do we see the Jinx? Do we see the Jinx come into this? Is this where we go with Epic Fail Guy? We get the Jinx Thresling together as the traditional counter pick to Caitlyn. No, we're gonna see the Morgana and the Zac seem to be what Skiz wanted. So Metapods, I'm happy to see the Zac again. It was nice.
See, both teams going back to what worked for them. CB Rush grabbing the Caitlyn, and No Fear going straight back to the Zac and the Morgana. That combo has to be so annoying for CB Rush to deal with. You have the Zac flying in, gets a Black Shield, you can't stop him. One of the big problems from the last game was there's this huge front line between the Zac and the Jarvan, and they can't get past it to get on that Ziggs. They get the Samira, but it just wasn't enough to finish the fights.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit worried, Metapods. No Fear Wolves have shown in their first draft of the series in game 1 that they were trying to utilize R3 and R5 for strong counter picks with that potential for the solo lanes in those counter pick scenarios, and they didn't utilize them very well. In this draft, I'm hoping that they're going to utilize them effectively to get a strong matchup for Cornstar and get a strong matchup for Cute Raichu, because we've seen what they can do from behind. We've seen what they can do with Samira and Jarvan, which are S tier picks in the current meta, clearly.
They're running back!
They're running it back on the Samira. Now we know that this can be flexed between middle lane and bottom lane, so this can go anywhere. I do expect them to take I expect them to take the Aurelia off the table and leave the Gwen, unless they felt that the Gwen lane was a bit too oppressive. But it seemed like the Aurelia was a bit more of a difficulty for them to handle after they take that Xin Zhao off the board. That said, the Braum is really strong, and I think it should deter them from playing Ornn again. And I'd really like to see them play potentially the Mordekaiser or get Cornstar back on that Young.
I am interested to see if they're going to give this Samir back to Cornstar, or if they're going to try to give him one of his more popular picks like the Yone, the Yasuo. Notably, there's also like the Ornn they could go to in this draft still. So I do like to see that Sejuani ban coming in, though, because that way they don't have to index as hard as, do we ban the Aurelia, do we ban the Gwen? If you take out the Sejuani, it limits both those picks quite a bit.
Yeah, and the Sejuani does go, as you mentioned, Metapod. That does help quite a bit, especially since you pinch Sedge and Xin Zhao. So we will see a new jungler, which is a really big deal. That said, where we go with that depends pretty heavily on the rest of this draft. The Seraphine pickup here typically means that Morgana is going to go to mid lane.
I think I've seen Raichu play the Seraphine before. He plays a lot of supportive picks in mid lane as well. Like he's played Karma before. I'd expect that to go mid lane with Raichu.
While Raichu might lean more towards the Seraphine, typically against Talia you would take the Morgana because she's actually very safe against it. And if they draft another aggressive jungler and move towards that adjustable jungle line, like this Hecarim that we saw Acid play last week, Morgana is very safe against this pick, whereas Seraphine has a massive problem against it. Seraphine instead can take the Samira bottom lane and help her sustain through the Caitlyn Braum, given the range disadvantage between Caitlyn and every ADC that isn't named Jinx in the early game. And this really, really helps stabilize your lanes, and then now you can utilize this R5 counter pick spot. You can get Cornstar onto something that just obliterates. We're going to see a Cho'Gath, or you could give Cornstar something else. You could play the double supports bottom lane, give Cornstar Samira mid, and play it Sank top. I don't know about that, but you could do it.
Actually, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. They won with a mage last game in bot lane, run it back.
Yeah. this definitely plays to their strengths and plays to what's winning for them. So if the Ziggs is gone, get yourself onto... Usually you'll see the Seraphine pick up gold, but I actually think the Morgana will pick up the gold in this matchup because the stronger Black Shield is a lot more important against Cho'Gath Braum and Talia. So getting the stronger Black Shield for Samira would make a lot more sense to give the Morgana over to Epic Fail Guy. Plus, when Epic Fail Guy is your big playmaking AD carry, or bot lane carry in general, having the Morgana flash in the middle and full shackles and having the confidence to do that is typically something you see from your carry, not from your support. Whereas we have seen Justbox on the Seraphine do well on it before.
Putting the Morgana in the farm role also accelerates her Zhonya's pickup a lot sooner too, which that item is crucial to that champion.
Yeah, as you said, Metapod, there's really two words that go together with Morgana, and it's Morgana and Zanya's, or Morgana and Stopwatch. I'm actually hoping that they take perfect timing on the Morgana pick, and 8 minutes into the game, there's going to be a gank on Morgana under a tower with the Hecarim, and the perfect timing is going to kill the Hecarim. That's my hot take for this game. It happens pretty commonly in solo queue.
It happens pretty commonly in Epic Fail Guys highlight reels too. I remember on the Aphelios, he had like a triple kill under his tower or something. It was crazy. But I said, we're not entirely sure that Samira isn't going bot lane still. Who knows? No Fear just does what they want apparently, and they just get away with it. They pulled that game out of nowhere. It was crazy.
It's in their name, Metapod. I have no fear. Come on.
They're staring down the barrel of getting 3-0'd by CBR, and they pulled that out. I've gotten the opportunity to be on the desk for most of their games in this playoff series, and I love just the random things they pull out. It has to be a nightmare to draft against them, because last week they brought in the Yasuo Yone out of nowhere. This week they're bringing in whatever's going on bot lane and mid lane. I don't know who's the driving force behind this stuff, but if it's Cornstar, it makes a lot of sense why he got a spot on this roster.
Cornstar has done some wonderful things for this roster. They've really shaped into a terrifying force with the addition of that lad, and regardless of what role he plays in the draft, in the game, when push comes to shove, Cornstar has shown up multiple times now and has played atrocious matchups very, very well. He kind of gave this team their ace in the hole that they didn't have before. And while they have star players in the form of Raichu and in the form of Epic Fail Guy, Cornstar is a different kind of star player. He's that consistent carry where he was 1 in 5 on Samira, and still, if he pressed Inferno trigger in the middle of their team, they needed to back off, whether or not we called it Inferno Kindling or an Inferno trigger, or then later on Inferno Destruction.
I mean, he just exemplifies a Yasuo player. You just have to wait for him to hit a 0-10 power spike, I've seen so many games where it looks like Cornstar is running it down, but he makes it work. He pulls out all these different picks, and that's the risk you're taking when you're playing Samira mid. You're pulling out Yasuo, you're pulling out Yone. Sometimes it just be like that. Sometimes you start to come back against CB Rush though.
Yeah, and Metapods, the big thing that I'm actually looking at in this game is I'm thinking to myself, what are some of the win conditions that each of these teams have? Usually, when you see Morgana and Seraphine on the same team, you're looking to see if you can put together a Serpent's Fang. And while Caitlyn can go lethality, and actually is sometimes the desired build, I'd really like to see her go Duskblade into Serpent's Fang this game with an Executioner in between. You're not reliant on Caitlyn's DPS to actually win you this game, because Talia has very high DPS, Cho'Gath has very high DPS, and Hecarim has burst potential. So Caitlyn can just carry you into that mid game. You're not looking to go late game against whatever craziness that No Fear has put together. With the combination of Serpent's Fang and Executioners, you actually cut the effectiveness of No Fear's comp by such a massive amount, especially if there's an Immortal Shield Bow on Samira. That could be a very, very effective win condition for CB Rush here.
I like what you're saying. The lethality Caitlyn, she did just get like a 20% AD ratio buff. It's actually pretty big, but being a bot lane slave, the support, most AD carriers are boomers. I don't see either of them going for a Duskblade on Caitlyn. I see why it's good. Game.
She
Yeah, but it's not Cornstar playing it. That's
Okay,
the
okay,
problem.
I follow. That said, I mean, we did get the Zoomer. We got the Zoomer Aurelia build last game with Bork into Immortal Shield Bow.
True.
I was happy to see that. That was really nice. I wonder though, will we get Zoomer Cho'Gath? Everfrost? Maybe. Because he's leaning into Malphite. Malphite's typically going to go Arcane Comet, and Cho'Gath can also go Comet, or he can go Grasp. Either way, he wins the matchup pretty decently. And if you go Everfrost Cho'Gath, you have situations where you can just kill the Malphite, or you land basically any form of CC while Morgana's not there, and you win the game.
I still love the old Boomer Zoomer Cho'Gath build of Spooky Ghosts. The old Frozen Hose. That was hilarious.
Yes!
I miss Spooky Ghosts so much, but now we have a lot of other options for it, like Cosmic Drive slots in pretty closely
We don't have
to where
Spooky
that
Ghosts
item was.
anymore. It's gone! I'm so sad.
Yeah, it was too
I used to
scary.
build it on everything. I built it on Ari. I built it on everything. It was so much fun too.
It was probably the goofiest item, and it's just it didn't have enough adoption, so I can see why they ended up getting rid of it. But it was a really cool item that I wish was still in the game. I do want to highlight here that we saw the draft coming in, and we do have officially those two supports going bot lane. Cute Raichu on the Malphite. I assume he's taking it top instead of mid though, because he did that in his last series against DCA. And Cornstar running back the Samira, most likely in the mid lane.
Hey, I can definitely see Samira being a corn star. There's a lot of similarities there. She does a lot of spinning, and corn you usually spin it on the roast above the fire. So after this game, we either get to roast Cornstar or sing his praises, right? Depending on what kind of corn we get.
I live in Nebraska. We have insane amounts of corn. You go anywhere, there's just corn. And so I wasn't quite following you at first. I've never roasted corn over an open fire like that before. You just do it on a grill normally. But I do like roasting Cornstar. I have a history of it. I can't argue against it.
That said, I'm really looking forward to seeing Frosty on the Talia once again. It's really a treat to watch, despite the fact that, you know, it's a bit oppressive in these games. It has such an impact on the game. In game 2, though, there was the ability to neutralize him that Cute Raichu found through his Azir. In this game, the Samira doesn't quite have that same pushing and laning power that Azir has. So I'm wondering if Frosty's going to be enabled the same way he was in game 1 and able to just run it down alongside the Hecarim across the entirety of the No Fear Wolves lineup with this Talia once again.
Yeah, that is one thing they're going to have to watch out for. CBR has been winning games where they're able to take the fights on their terms, and last game they just weren't quite able to find it. With that Talia, like you're highlighting that Hecarim, they can get anywhere so fast, and they're going to have that Braum following them up, jumping onto that Hecarim to support him wherever he goes. They could be in for a lot of trouble for No Fear Wolves this game.
Yeah, Metapods, not just the Talia Hecarim that scares me, it's also the Braum Hecarim that scares me. If Braum can meet up with Hecarim and invade on Zac, we know that Acid loves to invade. Together they pose a really powerful force, and they can absolutely destroy Skiz at blue buff. That said, Skiz has been phenomenal in the past 2 games, and not like game 1 Skiz at all. So I'm hopeful.
True. I do want to see Skiz have a good game. He's going to have a rough time playing Zac and the Hecarim, though, so we'll have to see how it goes. Also, before we get out of here, I saw Zara in the chat saying they look like Crepo, and I'm pretty sure it's the hair, so let me just fix that real quick. Officially not Crepo. There we go.
Excellent. No longer Crepo Metapods. We won't be seeing you stick ham in the servers, and you won't be seeing us until after this game, as we're going to throw it over to Mac and the rest of the cast for Game 4 of Excellency's Mid-League Grand Finals between No Fear Wolves and CB Rush. We will see you in just a few minutes.
Hello, Summoners. Welcome back onto the Rift for the Excellency Esports Mid-League Finals stream as we are continuing on our coverage here of the final series. It's the number 1 seed CB Rush taking on the number 3 seed No Fear Wolves. CB Rush sitting on match point, but they couldn't finish it off in game number 3. The No Fear Wolves with Skiz on this Zac make the miracle case to start the reverse sweep magic. Ladies and gentlemen, now we're getting into game number 4. Skiz back on the Zac, ready to make some more killer engages happen.
The Zac attack is coming through, and Skiz was kind of our highlight performer of game number 3. He had such a kind of monstrous Zac performance. We are seeing kind of a different team comp, Mac and Icarus, as we have Cute Raiju piloting a little bit more of the tanky style with the Malphite, and this is a bot lane I'm not particularly favorable of, mainly because I don't like Seraphine at all as a champion, but Seraphine Morgana bot lane versus Debay Nelson on the Caitlyn Braum, kind of the CBR classic. If you could build a comp for the bot side, this is exactly what CBR would want. So I just kind of want your thoughts on how this matchup will go, especially in the early game.
I'm honestly not a huge fan of the Morgana Seraphine either here. I think it's, again, kind of that same idea that we had with the Caitlyn Seraphine just a couple of games ago, where it's really squishy. So as soon as you get engaged on, it's so difficult to find survival in this laning phase. And yes, you are picking up the Morgana here more for getting the Black Shield in the later stages of this game in order to deal with the Braum. But this Seraphine is going to have to really optimize into some damage here in order to have any kind of impact here, because something we were talking off screen here, Gunjan, is the fact that there's a lack of damage coming in from the side of No Fear Wolves. Yes, you have the Malphite. Yes, you have the Samira, but the Malphite's building for full tank, and so is Zac. And with the support Morgana and Seraphine as your bottom lane carry, there's not really a whole lot of kill potential outside of these tanks getting ahead early and abusing their natural base damages and finding an early game lead that they can roll away with, instead of looking towards, you know, the normal way you do damage, which is through itemization and optimizing your build to do more and more damage.
Yeah, it's definitely not the Ziggs we saw in game number 3. It's going to be kind of a different style. I'm excited to see it because, again, both team comps don't have the greatest damage output, especially around the mid game. Obviously, Frosty piloting this Talia once again. It's good in those catch situations, but if you do get engaged on by the Zac and by the Malphite, it's really hard to kite out. Same with the Caitlyn, who, again, she is an immense range ADK, but Zac kind of supersedes that with just how far he's able to engage. So I'm excited to see what these team comps do, because it is kind of a classic comp as we see the flash being burned mid lane by Frosty. Again, good early warding by the side of CB Rush. You saw the ward was on that Raptor camp that caught Skiz in the early game, but he's still able to get something done in the early side, getting the flash from Frosty, making so he's playing a little bit less aggressive versus the Samira mid. And I want to talk about the Samira mid. Cornstar did not have that great of a game in game number 3. He was effective, but especially in the early side, I think at a certain such point, he was like 1-8. He was dealing the damage, but he was super far behind. And in this comp, he needs to be that primary carry for his team because, again, they lack that damage, especially in these mid-game team fights. And if you get kind of out-tanked by a Cho'Gath Hecarim, it is bad news bears for No Fear Wolves.
Been a very slow early game so far for both of these teams here. Really different kind of pace than we've seen in the past several games here. Not a whole lot of action, whereas normally we would have seen Acid look for some kind of gank by now, but diverting away from the Xin Zhao, away from the Diana as normal that he's been playing, and going towards this Hecarim means that he really wants to try and farm up towards that level 6 point. Same with Skiz, and I think this is kind of something that favors the side of No Fear Wolves just a little bit, in the sense that they want Skiz to really hit that level 8, level 9 power spike with the Elastic Slingshot and take over the game the same way that he did in the last game of this series here, and just really doing a fantastic job of constantly forcing engages onto the backline members of CB Rush.
I like the play right there. Cute Raiju using the fact that he had TP'd back into lane to just kind of blow the summoner from Rutledge. And it is going to be important because anytime you blow one of these summoners in the lane, it allows Skiz to have a lot more effectiveness as whenever he tries to make his gank happen. They are going to be on the early dragon, but Acid is here and they don't have the bot lane, but they are arriving soon. This will be a fight for the side of CB Rush.
Epic Fail Guy is in the base right now, trying to get back to the rest of the team. The early dragon plan is foiled as the CB Rush squad coming in at electric speed for the dragon objective there. They spot it with the Scryer's Bloom, and that's going to be Acid picking up the first objective of the game. Gentlemen, he has been on point with the Hecarim pathing as expected. He's got a pretty solid CS lead early on, as Skiz looking into the mid lane for a gank. Acid is here as well. The arms are coming out. Cornstar unable to find the engage. He's getting knocked back. Acid letting Cornstar dash through here. Cornstar trying to flash under turret. It's first blood going over to the horse. The ignite gonna burn down Acid. Wait, he survives! He's staying alive, boys, like the Bee Gees. First blood going over to CB Rush. So clean.
That smite wasn't even necessary by Acid. It only heals off of jungle camps there. So a bit of a panic moment for sure from the side of CB Rush, but understandably so. Playing on a knife's edge in order to make that first blood happen, and that is massive for this Hecarim. Without even having the onslaught of shadows, being able to pick up that first blood is going to accelerate him towards that Divine Sunder that makes this Hecarim oh so scary. And once he has access to that ultimate, he's free to look anywhere he wants. In particular, I want to see him go towards the bottom side of the map. This double super squishy support mage styles champions that are being played here are going to be the perfect targets to blow up now that you've had that Sheen and Phage completed for the Hecarim. And the level 6 ultimate will be a huge power spike that allows him to really just dish out damage whether or not he's able to get the fear out with that black shield available.
And Mac, you were talking about the kind of pathing that Acid has, especially in this early game with this Hecarim pickup. You can see these are kind of different styles of junglers on both end. Acid knows the Skiz wants to make these early game plays, wants to make kind of things happen, and with this onslaught of shadows...
Oh my god! It is so clean from Acid in the mid lane, but is he going to be able to finish off Cornstar? Frosty going wide with the rocks, and he's unable to pick up the kill. Cornstar gets away just barely, but... boys, he's going to be losing an entire wave, maybe even more, to this turret as Skiz is going to come in janitorial duty. He's cleaning up.
He's going to try to get something onto Frosty, but not much. And again, this is important that that gank did end up failing for the side of Acid, because it would have been incredibly bad if Acid ends up picking up another kill. Because what is happening is that basically both junglers have different styles and ideas about how they want to go about this game. Skiz wants to farm basically some of his camps, basically take 2 to 3 camps at a time, and then look for a gank whenever a flash is down or something like that is down. Acid is looking to power farm and look for basically high success rate ganks, and that was a higher success rate ganks. It ended up failing, but those are the ganks that need to kind of not work out, because Acid is already further ahead than Skiz. He's gonna get that Divine Thunder quickly, and he can get to a point where, you mentioned it, Icarus, if he's strong enough, once he gets that first item, with the push that DeBay and Nelson has, they can just push this double squishy bot lane into tower and then just dive them over and over again with Hecarim and with Talia ult.
I think it's really interesting to look down on the bottom lane and notice that DeBay went for an Executioner's Calling very first item of the game. Hold on, the Weaver's Wall though.
Josh Box is caught between the wall and a hard place. He's going to get stunned up, concussed, headshot to the dome, and CB Rush pick up a kill in the bot lane.
As I was saying there, the first item Executioner's Calling coming in for the side of DeBay means that he's able to provide the grievous wounds in that trade there. And so the heal coming through for Epic Fail Guy, despite having no ignite in that fight, is still able to cut through a lot of the healing that the Seraphine with heal with the W is able to pull off there. And that means that Josh Box goes down. Yes, the Weaver Wall put off a huge, wall literally for Josh Box to try and cover in order to make that play possible, but being able to pick up that kill there for DeBay as well, getting the 80 carry rolling ahead. These are two of the large members that have the kills for the side of CB Rush that need to be picking up these kills. And Frosty already this game, in comparison to the rest of the times we've seen him play this Talia, is really making these roams happen for his team.
He's definitely making it happen. He's getting the early kills of, and the big thing about that was that Epic Fail Guy did have to use the flash to avoid the gank, so he will just be re-gankable. Acid now picking up the onslaught of shadows, getting closer and closer to that Divine Sunder. We are at a stage where if this bot lane kind of gets to the same situation where they're getting pushed under tower, they can just get roamed on doubly effectively with Frosty having his ulti back up soon, and with Acid's onslaught of shadows. It gets scarier and scarier. For the side of No Fear Wolves, though, a kind of saving grace is that Cornstar, again, has been able to avoid further deaths after losing the flash. He does have a CS lead and will be getting a shield bow pretty soon, so he is a lot more in the game than he was in game number 3, where he was just completely shut out. There is going to be Infernal Dragon being set up for the side of CBR. Skiz is in the area, but he looks like he's just going to drop Rift Herald no, he's just gonna kind of walk around, and they should have an inkling of this, but they just can't contest, and they get the Rutledge to feast down the dragon. Infernal Dragon goes to the side of CB Rush.
It's going to be a Cloud Rift for us in game number 4. Gunjin, your favorite Cloud Soul is potentially on the table here for CB Rush, as early on they're up to a 2-0 Drake lead. DeBay and Nelson handling business in the bot lane as Acid making Hecarim look oh so good in the current meta. Making it work, has a little bit of a CS lead, but Skiz is very much still going to be a factor in this game, looking to keep the, I guess, Zach Oozball rolling here in game 4.
And while we're talking about, obviously, the 2-0 for the side of CB Rush and the Dragon, the gold has stayed pretty even due to kind of just superior laning, as we see Onslaught of Shadows and... oh, epic fail guy.
He's taken down first. DeBay gonna cleanse and flash out there. Skiz not in a position to follow up that gank. It is Acid being proactive, making the plays work that constantly wins CP Rush games. But now Cornstar is here to change this fight around. Let's bounce right onto Acid. DeBay trying to position back, trying to be a DPS in the backline. Ace in the hole, straight right on to Skiz, who gets popped. No teleport coming through from Cute Raichu. He sees immediately taken down. Now Just trying to chain everyone down, but it's DeBay with a double kill. CB Rush coming out on top in the bot lane. That's going to be a 3-for-0 in total, as the Wolves and Cornstar are going to have to walk away with their tails between their legs.
And it's such a commanding early game here for CB Rush. Last game we saw them have an early game lead and kind of watch it dwindle away, but this time around they are not playing any games. They picked up the first 2 dragons for themselves. They've gotten kills onto the side of Acid and DeBay. This Caitlyn is able to go back to base and pick up a very early Kraken Slayer for herself in order to really get the ball rolling for this AD carry. And again, we got to come back to the fact that there is consistent damage, and it is 2 of the biggest damage dealers on the side of CB Rush that are going to be able to find all these kills and these leads for themselves. And we saw in that last fight, there just didn't seem to be enough people throwing out abilities and damaging their opponents in order to make that play happen, as they're trying to force something topside.
It is a 2v2 between the top laners and the junglers. Rutledge, no feast available, but look at Acid hacking away on the horse. He's able to help out Rutledge take down Skiz. Shelly just trying to nom on some minions. Not ideal for the side of No Fear Wolves, as that is no turret plate cash boost incentive there. No Fear Wolves, they aren't able to utilize that objective. And now look at Frosty on his signature Talia taking control in the mid lane.
And they're falling further behind, and Acid is just kind of taking over. He now is having a 2 level lead over Skiz in this jungle matchup, and he's just so incredibly strong, and everywhere he goes he's just making things happen. And again, the gold lead hasn't gotten too far away from the side of No Fear Wolves, but kind of the control that he's established, it's allowing the rest of his laners to play more and more aggressive, because there's always a fear that Acid is right there to reply. He's having just kind of a performance of the split right now on this Hecarim, and he's really carrying them home to kind of, again, the momentum of the series had felt like it flipped just a little bit after game number 3, and he's just trying to close the door right here in game number 4 and say, no, it's going to be a CBR win. It was all expected. It was all predicted by Icarus and Gujin, and just mess up Mac Dewey's predictions just a little bit.
You know, you gotta really give the true casters here the shout out. You gotta mess with Mac Dewey a little bit, but really what I think it is here is when you have a best of 5 series, you have a little bit of a for fun game, and this time around CB Rush is not playing around here. And something we got to keep in mind is, yes, it's not that massive of a gold lead, but for 15 minutes in, having a 3,000 advantage over your opponent is going to help accelerate you into this mid game with another dragon spawning in 30 seconds. That 3,000 gold lead, the completed item on your Hecarim, the completed item for Debay, and looking towards the mid lane, probably a reset for the Tali would equal a completed item, but I don't know if they're going to have time for Frosty. But all that will mean that there's going to be a massive itemization difference here coming up for this third dragon, and it's so important that you fight this if you're the side of No Fear Wolves, because if you give over this third Drake, it will mean Soul Point is ready and available for CB Rush whenever that next and fourth dragon comes up, and you do not want to be letting this team continue to snowball so far ahead.
Watch Skiz, the electric slingshot coming in, not able to connect. Frosty separating the team fight. Skiz nowhere to go. The onslaught of shadows by Acid into the back line, decimating the No Fear Wolves, but Epic Fail Guy still alive. You with the answer. The Inferno is triggered. The No Fear Wolves are hanging on, but how long can they do it? Frosty takes down Cornstar while Acid gets taken down, but Rutledge, he is feasting on the Wolves. Here is Skid taken down by the rocks. Josh Buck's not going to get knocked up. It is a 3-for-1 CB Rush. Control the fight, and they're looking at Dragon.
What a close team fight. I've never felt like a 3-for-1 was close. Oh my god. Just 4-for-1, misspoke right there, but this should be Cloud Dragon for the side of CBR. It was such a beautiful engage from the side of CB Rush. They cut off with the Talia's Weaver's Wall. The fight kind of reset. Malphite ulti comes through as well, and it looks incredibly clean, but they just don't have enough damage on the side of No Fear Wolves. The members was just too tanky. Acid does end up falling and going over a shutdown, but you can see right there, Debate, this consistent DPS is coming in big for the side of CB Rush.
And it's so difficult here because those are the kinds of team fights that give you hope if you're the side of No Fear Wolves. And we've seen so many games in solo queue and in pro or amateur where you're just that close to winning the team fight. You get the 4-man Malphite ultimate. You have the massive Seraphine ultimate as well, the Encore catching 4 members, and you feel like you can win the fight, but that lack of damage in the gold lead that we were talking about is just really making the difference here, allowing CB Rush to pick up 4 kills. And that means that 3k gold lead is now a 4.5k gold lead, and every time No Fear Wolves tries to contest these fights and don't find success, is just spreading that gold lead so much more. And it feels like it's going to be one of those heartbreaking games here for No Fear Wolves if they can't find a successful team fight that just slowly but surely gets out of their grasp to the point where we have that final team fight of the game that's just going to be so dominant here for CB Rush.
Yeah, we're just getting closer and closer to that point. You can see Rutledge is just getting tankier and tankier. And it gets scary when you have that one kind of source of damage. And the big part of that team fight, something I forgot to mention, was that as Cornstar tried to go in to follow up that big Malphite ulti from Cute Raichu, he got immediately exhausted by Nelson. And it's so effective because when you're the only source of damage, you get exhausted, 30% of your damage is cut, and you just can't do anything. The damage needed to be there, but there's just nothing you can do. The targeted spell was way too strong, and Nelson kind of secretly carried that fight, and it avoided Cornstar from really taking over.
The flank by Cute Raichu. This is the fight the No Fear Wolves have been looking for. Rutledge in the middle of everyone. It's like Godzilla towering over, but he's charmed up. He's getting knocked up. He is getting melted. Cornstar with the shutdown. No Fear Wolves pick up 2 kills.
And look where both of those kills went, Macdu and Gunjin. They both went over to Cornstar, and they were both shutdown kills as well. Massive. I cannot stress how big that is that it goes over to the Samira here, because it means that the one person who is dealing damage on the side of No Fear Wolves just got a huge influx of gold, and we're going to need to see the Samira pop off this game. That kind of a team fight setup is a perfect thing for the side of No Fear Wolves, where you pick off one member at a time, and Cornstar is able to just reset with one ulti after another and start shredding through these frontline and backline members of the CB Rush composition.
And while I love the fight setup for the side of No Fear Wolves, and it's great that, again, Cornstar ends up picking up those kills, it does utilize that TP from Malphite. And so when Cloud Soul does come up in a minute and a half, he's not going to have that TP available. So it's going to be up to No Fear Wolves to really establish some sort of vision control. So it's not some sort of situation where you're walking in blind. You want to set it up so that Zac and Malphite maybe can have a flank position onto Frosty and the Bay. But it's going to be super important for the side of No Fear Fear Wolves to kind of really get in there early, because once the fight gets set up, once it's kind of the onus is on CB Rush, once they can kind of divide and conquer you with these kind of zone control ultis like the Hecarim, Cho'Gath's entire kit basically, and then Frosty's Weaver's Wall, it's really hard to play out these kind of 4 group team comp that No Fear Wolves is running. So I'm excited to see what they can do, but in a minute we will have an answer to that question.
Frosty weaving on up into the top lane, knocking back Q Raichu, gonna try to unstoppable his way out of this fight, dodges everything, and he's safe under the turret. Rutledge not able to have some rocks for breakfast. CB Rush just gonna have to back off. It is Dragon spawning 45 seconds, the potential Cloud Soul.
And again, it's another situation where you get out alive if you're cute Raichu here, but what did it cost you? It costs you that unstoppable force on the Malphite, which is one of the big forms of initiation here for the side of the No Fear Wolves. And to be honest with you, I don't know how long that cooldown is, but it doesn't look like it's going to be up by the time this next dragon is spawning onto the map. And this is sole point here for CB Rush, who is at 20 seconds before this dragon is spawning, already making their rotation over to the river. They have all 5 members here. Fear Wolves is trying to come and set up, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, MacDowie.
Skiz just going to back off, but he should have Elastic Slingshot available before this dragon spawns. Keep an eye on the Corn Star. Samira, buckle up. This is for the soul. Ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to this. For the No Fear Wolves, their hopes in finals. They're down 2-1. CB Rush on soul point. They have Rutledge Feast available. They're going to start burning down the No Fear Wolves. Try to pull the trigger. The Elastic Slingshot comes in late. The Cloud Soul is acquired, and CB Rush see the green light to try to engage assassin into the back line. It is CB Rush in finals. They can't be melted just yet. Cornstar, but a huge re-engage. Cute Raichu, has he found it? Cornstar still alive. Can he get the style points? He's not looking good enough here as the No Fear Wolves are taken down. Epic Fail Guy gets 1 for the road as he's safe under the turret, but the pilt over Peacemaker, Hope Ender from DeBay, CB Rush get the ace.
Phenomenal team fight coming in here from the side of CB Rush, MacDowie, and it is the team fight that is going to result in the Dragon Soul going over, and it is a team fight that is going to be the Baron going over to the side of CB Rush here. Morgana is alive, but I don't think Jushbox can make this deal happen. Even with the Tormented Soil in the pit, you still have the Cho'Gath ult, you have the Smite. It should be easy enough here. Okay.
Rutledge is going to be picking up the objective. We hit the 23.5 minute mark in just a couple of seconds, and CB Rush on match point, on finals point, on throne taking point is up 8,000 gold with the Cloud Soul secured.
It's tragic to say, Icarus and Mac, but these fights, as much as they're going CB Rush's favor, are so incredibly close. Epic Fail Guy got a 5-man Seraphine ulti in that team fight. It was so massive, but there's just not enough damage, and I feel like I'm just a broken record, but I have to keep saying it. This comp, it has the engage, it has whatever you need, but last comp, you had the Jarvan to supplement, you had the Ziggs to supplement, so they just could not make those fights happen. They just don't have enough damage, and it feels like it's kind of the final straw. Again, Cloud Soul doesn't affect, it doesn't give you those combat stats like the Infernal, the Ocean, or the Mountain, but this movement speed, this ultimate cooldown is going to affect these side lanes so much, especially with Acid trying to get right into the back line. It feels like it's doom and gloom, but I've seen worse. I've expected worse, and I believe in the No Fear Wolves to try and mount some sort of comeback in this game number 4.
They're going to have to pull out a miracle if they want that to happen, though. Kunjin, look at this Baron Power Siege. It's so strong. It's an 8,000 massive gold lead here for the side of CB Rush. They have the Caitlyn on that 2-item power truck. Oh, no.
Frosty has found who he was looking for. Cornstar almost able to turn that one around, but only the shield boat is immortal as he's taken down. Skiz looking for the engage, but can't stop CB Rush, looking just too damn good in purple. Skiz now looking for the engage. We got ourselves a fight. Joshbox knocked up. Acid into the back line. This is what CB Rush have been waiting for. What Rutledge has been wanting for more than a split. What they came back to mid-league to do. They're knocking down the base of the No Fear Wolves. They get the mid lane inhibitor there. Now moving down into the bot lane.
They're gonna be able to pick up this bot lane inhibitor as well. And again, Cornstar's up in 10, but they just have no wave clear. Skiz would be an absolute he's going for it, Mac.
No Fear Wolves, they've got nothing left to lose. They got to try to keep this game alive. Cornstar needs to get those Devil May Cry style points up. Joshbox gonna get knocked back and deleted. There is Acid, Nelson, the whole crew. Debay from the back line. It's a double kill, a triple kill for Rutledge. The cherry on top of a ridiculously dominating season for CB Rush. They only dropped 2 games in playoffs as Cornstar is taken down. He shuts down Frosty. He gets the last laugh, but it is CB Rush, ladies and gentlemen, who are your mid-league summer 2021 champions.
And it is in dominating fashion that CB Rush are able to end out this game 4 and winning game 3 point here for CB Rush, 22-5, 12,500 gold lead in the advantage here for the side of CB Rush. They had their fun game in game 3, lost to a bit of a weird composition here, and they wanted to come back and show that it was just a fluke and it wasn't something that you need to be genuinely afraid of. They allow the Zac to still go back over. Skiz's champion that made it so much happen here for the side of No Fear Wolves, and it did not matter because there was not enough damage to follow it up here in our 4th and final game.
And it just feels right at the end of the day. CB Rush finally take the cup. They finally take the summer split championship with a comp that feels so spring split. They ran what was comfortable. They ran what they were used to. And you can see the domination. Whenever they go back to, whenever they get beaten down just a little bit, they say, okay, Acid, you're going to carry us through. We're going to play the tanks. We're going to play through you. They did just that, and they pick up the game. They pick up the series. I want to send a congratulations out to No Fear Wolves. They made it a hell of a series. They fought so hard. They had the ups that none of us believed in. None of us thought it was possible, but they gave them a fight. But at the end of the day, CB Rush are inevitable. CB Rush are dominant, and CB Rush take this win.
They are bringing home a big old Boston Whalers ship, boys. They win the final. They take the mid-league crown. We're going to throw it over to the analyst desk for a quick post-game breakdown of the final game and of the series. But don't click out of that browser just yet. After the post-game breakdown, we're going to have our final interview of the season. Stay tuned, and let's throw it over to the analyst desk.
Mac, thank you so much. Wow. We got our winners. I mean,
clean.
I'm not surprised, Metapods, but CB Rush, they made it look good in that last game. And they spoke to our hearts. Debay, he went the Zoomer build, Metapods. He went the Zoomer build. First item, Executioner's Calling. Second item, Kraken. And then third item, Serpent's Fang. Rip apart their team with that. He didn't have to do the DPS. All he had to do was be the Zoomer.
True. He didn't go for the Dusk play, but he got pretty close. It was some smart itemization.
Metapods, I was really, really happy with the way the CB Rush played that last game. Game 3 was really shaky. Game 4 was just absolute domination across the board. Every team fight, it seemed like they were exiting with less than 250 health on the health bars. Having the Morgana go into support instead of into that carry position meant that her Black Shields were just not enough for Cornstar to actually get in there and have the Black Shields survive through the multiple different forms of crowd control that were available, and really set the tone for the pace of the game. As if Cornstar made any mistakes, he wasn't able to get the Inferno trigger off, and at 22 minutes with the Cloud Soul fight, Cornstar couldn't find his way to that Inferno trigger and couldn't find a way to cinch that fight for his team and bring them to a potential game 5. And off the back of that, it was just the end of things as far as CB Rush were concerned. They ran it down on them.
That one really looked personal from CB Rush. The Bay heard us talking up Epic Fail Guy. Oh my goodness, his Ziggs is so good. He didn't even die. And the Bay says, nah. You only have 180 carry to carry your comp. I'm not even gonna build real items. I'm still gonna carry you higher than you. He goes 8-0. It was incredible. Acid coming in. He heard about Skiz's Jungle Kingdom. He's like, nah, that was a one-off. That was one game. Doesn't work like that. He brings it back. Keeps diving mid lane again. Acid controlled that early game so well, and he kept pushing the pace for CB Rush that game.
Yeah, and it's really easy to see that when you look at the fact that 22 minutes was the soul timer. That is a completed soul at 22 minutes as one of the fastest souls you can possibly get. That speaks to just how hard Acid took Skiz and threw him around and did whatever he want. At some point, we had to make the statement, Rock beats Goo. You know, rock, paper, scissors. You chose Goo, I chose Rock. It's over.
I like looking at their gold even. I think the Bay finished with like 13k. The Samira Cornstar finished like 9k. You're the only carry on your comp. I don't know how you're ever supposed to turn that around. Like, sure, you have healing coming in from the Seraphine. That one, not Sona. You have a Black Shield from Jushbox on the Morgana, but both of them didn't really go for the support builds. Their Samir was behind, so they're trying to force up more damage. They have a Leandri's coming out of their Seraphine. They have a Mandate coming out of the Morgana. Mandate's only a useful item if you hit your Q on Morgana. You could have had a Shirelius to help them get in there, maybe move these fights a little bit better, but I still don't know what more they could have done. It was just CB played such a clean game.
Yeah, and on that note, that's going to be the last that you guys hear from both Metapods and myself, the Midget Cow. Thank you very much for having us here on Excellency for the mid-lead analyst desk for these grand finals. What a fantastic game. Big shout out to VDV for moderating Twitch chat all night long and making sure that there were no runaway souls. Just taking people out left and right, honestly, by the back end. Dory
Shout out to Zongi. I could have done it
much.
without him.
Oh, yeah, Zongi.
I'll give him credit where it's due if no one else will.
Okay. Shout out to Dory K for fantastic production, Wumbo for our replays, and to the casting team I'm about to hand things back to, Icarus, Gunjun, MacDewey. Thank you very much, and take it away with our interview with some very special players.